This episode is proudly supported by Anchor Food Professionals. Whether you're a caterer, cafe operator, or chef running a commercial kitchen, everyone knows quality products are the foundation of successful dishes. Anchor Food Professionals is a trusted supplier to the hospitality industry and has built a stellar reputation thanks to their consistently excellent butter, cream, and cheese. As the food service business of Fonterra, Anchor Food Professionals is home to many well-known brands such as Perfect Italiano, Mainland, Western Star, and Bega, and is now an important part of the Australian food service sector. Anchor Food Professionals has a history of innovation and expertise in sustainable dairying that delivers a world-class product portfolio. If quality cheese, cream, and butter are important to your creations, head to anchorfp.com.au to explore the range.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. Look, being on the farm and just being with the animals day to day and doing that as part of your routine, it's really something that I would never want to give up.
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Well, it's always an absolute honour to be on someone's farm and see what they do. Eli Bailey, Dewsbury Pork, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah, look, it's a pleasure to have you out here and great to have a chat.
It's amazing out here. It's a bit of a windy day, but we're going to get out there shortly. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing here.
So here at Dewsbury's Pork, we've really got a focus on pure breeds. So our focus breeds are the Duroc and the Hampshire. They're two of the rarer breeds in Australia, and they were two of the later breeds to actually come here. So they only came to Australia in the sort of mid-1980s, 1984 or something like that.
Wow.
And sort of since then, they've sort of dwindled in popularity. They're used a lot in the intensive industry, mainly as a terminal sire. But lately, they've seen a lot of resurgence, especially with smaller scale free-range farms that are doing it outdoors.
Yeah.
So no, it's good to see, and we're sort of dedicated to maintaining that gene pool there.
Why did you select those?
So I think it was around 10 years ago, we started using we used Duroc boar, and when we saw the quality of the piglets and how well they did outside, and the meat quality and that sort of thing, we decided that we wanted to start breeding purebred pigs, and shortly after that we added the Hampshires as well.
Tell us a little bit about this region. What's so great about it for what you do?
I mean, look, in terms of pig farming, especially outdoors, this region's really ideal. We don't get that hot in the summer. We do get cold in the winter, but pigs deal with the cold a lot better than they do with the heat.
Yeah.
The rainfall is not excessive. We don't get a huge amount of rainfall. We don't have that, the problem that the guys get up north with, the tropical rainfall and that sort of thing. So yeah, all round, it's it's a pretty good area to be in. Logistically, it works well too. We're situated between Sydney and Canberra. It gives us access to a sort of a wide range of markets. And then, of course, we're not too far from out west, so getting grain and feed and that sort of thing is not a massive issue as well. So yeah, it's quite a good area to be in for this sort of farming.
Tell us about sort of life on the farm for the pigs. What's the environment like, and what impact does it have on them?
So here we do things a little bit differently. All of our pigs are grown outdoors, so they're out in paddocks. With our sows, in 2019, we put up a large shed that we'll go and have a look at later. But what we actually do is, especially when we're in the middle of winter and it's cold, wet, windy, that sort of thing, our sows will have their litters in deep straw-bedded pens in the shed, and then when they're weaned, we'll move them out into paddocks. And we've just found that we lose a lot less piglets that way. It's better on the mothers, better on the piglets. It's not so much of an issue in the summer, when it's nice and warm and it's dry and it's not wet. We do still farrow a lot outdoors, but particularly in the winter. And these last few wet years, it's really been an asset to the business.
And tell us a bit about their diet, and has that changed and adapted to get the right end product that you want?
Yeah, it has. So initially, probably 8 years ago, I think we started mixing our own feed. So when we started, we were just on sort of a pre-made pellet that everything would get, and the other thing that comes into that is the cost, and we were looking for a way to decrease the cost of our feed, and so we started mixing our own feed using sort of locally available grains from farmers around the area. So that's had a big impact on the business as well. It does add another job, but it's also sort of adds another dimension and gives you more control over the quality, I think. So
tell us a little bit about what life is like on the farm here for you. What's the day-to-day like?
So day-to-day, I mean, there's your number one priority is always getting everything fed. It's just a never-ending job feeding pigs. But then there's a lot of maintenance things, especially with pigs outdoors. You've got a lot of maintenance on fencing. They're really hard on fencing. We do use a lot of electric fencing, but there's always something shorting out, something else to sort out. Checking all the waters, as we've got a very big sort of reticulated watering system that we've put in, so everything's runs off gravity. So we don't actually use any power on the farm. Everything's pumped up from dams or large holding tanks into a gravity-fed tank, and that's right at the top of the farm, and gravity feeds the entire farm. And I mean, it's got a lot of advantages, but the one thing is if you do get something happen, you can lose a lot of water. So it takes a lot of maintenance to keep everything in good order. So
how did it all begin? Why did you get into pig farming?
That's a bit of a story in itself, actually. So I used to run a firewood business. That was one of the reasons that this property was purchased in the first place. It's part family land, and then the other part of it where the pigs are now was purchased in, I think it was 2012. We bought that other block, but the reason I'd done that was I was running a firewood business, and there was a lot of dead timber. We've got a huge amount of bush here, and a lot of that was been sort of dead and standing since the 1980s when there was a large fire through there. So we thought, get into that and do some wood. And one day I did a load of wood for a guy, and he offered me some pigs in exchange for the load of wood. And I thought at the time I didn't have any livestock on the place, and I thought, look, why not? And I'd give it a go, and it sort of all started from there. So,
do you have any funny stories or the challenges of getting the pig farm sort of set up?
Yeah, look, it was in the early days. Everything was done by hand. There was very little machinery. The water was all done by hand and everything, and it was just it was very different to what it is now. But it's sort of slowly evolved over those 12 years now, and sort of is where it is, and we're looking to expand further. But in the early days, it was, I can remember trying to unload our first lot of pigs. We had these little pigs we'd grown, and then we had these massive big sows that we'd bought from somewhere, and we were trying to unload them, but the only thing we had to unload them was the roof of one of the shelters, and we were walking these sows across the roof to get them off. And it's just I don't know how we did it all, but it got there in the end. So
whenever we talk to a pig farmer on this show, they always tell us how fascinating they are to work with.
They are,
and they've always got a story. Have you got stories of some of the funny things that pigs have done on the farm here?
Oh, look, there's every day there's something come. I mean, look, you get your favourites, and there's always those individual pigs that'll have sort of more personality than others. I mean, the Durocs can be characters. They've got a reputation for being aggressive, and we haven't really found that to be so. But look, there's just so many things that they'll do. You get ones that are like akin to a big dog or a pet or something, and they'll come up for pats and scratches and everything. And then other ones are sort of a bit more wary, and they'll keep their distance until it's feeding time. But no, look, there's always something happening with them, and we definitely do have our favourites, especially with the boars. We have a lot of contact with the boars here. We've got a separate sort of breeding area for them, and they've all sort of got their pet names and love their pats, and they'll get up on the pens even though they're 7 foot tall. So
farming is one thing, but taking that product to market is a completely different thing. How did you first get your pork to market, and where does it go now?
Yeah, so look, in the early days, we used to just sell wieners. So we would go. There used to be a pig sale every week in Camden. There isn't anymore. There hasn't been a pig sale there for years now. But that's what we used to do. We used to take wieners there every week. They'd be 8 to 10 weeks old, and we'd take them there, and they'd just be bought by buyers that would go into the Sydney market. And then sort of from there, we started sort of selling direct to customers through farmers markets. That was a big part of the business for a lot of years. I think 6 or 7 years we were doing farmers markets, and we only stopped doing them 2 years ago. And we were always sort of very small and did it sort of face to face like that. But the trouble we always had was the time on the farm. There was never enough time on the farm. There was doing so many markets, and it sort of got to the point where logistically it was getting impossible without employing someone, and then we were too small to sort of employ someone. So it was a bit of an awkward position, and now we almost exclusively supply mostly those high-end butchers. So whole carcasses, they get processed weekly, and then they get delivered directly to the butchers. And then our stud markets that really picked up in the last few years. So we sell a lot of stud boars as breeding stock, and then we sell a lot of females as well, especially to outdoor farms that are looking for those breeds that are hardy and do well outdoors. So,
from an eating perspective, how do you describe the pork that you produce compared to others that are on the market?
It's definitely got a lot more flavour and a lot more marbling. You can see it in the product as well. It's a much darker meat. So especially with your Duroc, you don't have a huge amount of fat with the Duroc on the outside, but there is very intense marbling throughout the meat. The eating quality is very nice. You can grow the Duroc so that heavier weight and not have excessive fat on the carcass. They're very popular with butchers, especially those that like a larger pig. Some butchers want these the 75, 80 kilo carcass pigs, and if we were doing that, if you tried to do that with one of your older sort of heritage breeds like your Saddlebacks or your Tamworth, you'd really struggle with the fat, and the time taken to grow them there it's sort of not economically viable. But especially with the Durocs, they've really got that growth in them, and the Hampshires are similar. They're not quite as fast growing, but they've been very popular with butchers as well, and have very, very good eating quality. So
you mentioned how taking your product to market sort of took away time on the farm, and you changed that up. But how does it make you feel being on the farm and being out there doing what you do?
Yeah, look, it's just great. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else after doing that. So yeah, look, being on the farm. And just being with the animals day to day and doing that as part of your routine, it's really something that I wouldn't ever want to give up. So,
is there a cut of pork or a dish that is a family favourite that you can tell us about?
Yeah, look, there definitely is. Obviously, eat a lot of pork here. Like I'd say we'd probably eat pork 3 to 4 times a week. Just for variety. I never get sick of it, but definitely a favourite for me is the good old fashioned crumb cutlet.
Nice.
So the pork, nice big pork cutlet, beaten out thinly. I'll trim the rind and that off, and beat it out, crumb it, and have that. So that's definitely one of my favourites, and something I'll probably never get sick of, I don't think. So
Well, it's amazing what you're doing out here, and also that sort of focus on sort of rare pure breeds. What do you love about what you're creating here?
Look, I think it's especially when you know that your efforts are going towards conserving that breed in Australia. It's been really sort of rewarding doing that, and seeing the actual physical progress and the genetic progress that you get sort of year on year, and see your pigs improving. That's a really big part of the satisfaction for me, and being involved in the shows in the last couple of years has been a big part of it as well, and that will be going forward. And I mean, the thing with the shows and the purebred pigs is you get to sort of catch up with everyone else in the industry, and there's so few people left breeding purebred pigs, and I think it's really important to sort of put an emphasis on that. So.
Well, Eli, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's always an honour to be on someone's farm, and can't wait to get out there and have a look. So it's great to get you on the show. Should we get out there and have a look at the pigs?
No, that sounds great. We'll get out and have a look.
Thanks, mate.
No, thank you.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.